Says we're
And
live.
it says we're live.
It lies.
We're waiting.
No, I don't think there's anyone here yet. It does
Nope.
say we're live. It says we're live for about 10 seconds. So,
Tick tock, tick tock, tick
Dun,
tock.
dun, 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 dun,
might as well wait until we have an audience to do any of the promos.
There's
Differs. Hi, Differs. How are all the puppies doing? Did you guys know that Differs and Kermit got 3 puppies?
They did?
Oh,
They're
Jesus.
adorable. I'll have to
What
show
sort
you
of
pictures.
puppies?
Puppies.
Yes, but
Farm puppies.
Oh,
Heinz 57 puppies.
They're dogs. Good old fashioned American dogs.
6 dogs now, as a matter
Yep,
of
because
fact.
they've got the 3 elderly pups,
Yeah.
and then they wound up with 3 puppies.
Oh, good.
Elderly are not puppies, I hate to tell you.
No, the elderlies are we're already theirs.
All right, go ahead.
All
All
right.
right.
So,
It's happening.
Lab Pit Cane Corso, bloody hell.
Oh, geez.
Okay. If you would like to keep the roof nailed on and unleakable, would you donate here, please? Roof nailed on and unleakable is a good thing. Coffee. Yes, coffee's good. I've not had coffee today. I'm
Why
slightly
have you not
twitchy.
had coffee today?
fasting blood labs this morning.
Oh,
Oh,
suckage.
So you can talk to these guys if you like coffee. They're good folks. Remember, we're doing a coffee anthology with these guys. So
Write us your stories. If your story gets in, I get to illustrate it.
yeah.
yes, and tell King Harves you're thinking about them and the stories, everything else. Let's see. If you like smartass t-shirts, and who doesn't? Go take a look at this guy. It's Jim Jim. So go talk to Jim Jim and get yourself a smartass t-shirt.
Padre wants to know when the stories are due.
Substack calls for submissions.
Yeah, it'll have all the details there of what they're due, what the open call actually looks like. Because it's things like we have the Super Generations that's open right now,
Yeah.
and that one has some very specific details that you need to pay attention to if you want to write for it.
I love
So-
authors, but y'all can't read worth a damn.
It's not that they can't read; they just get super excited, and the story pops into their head, and they want to write that.
And I can't read.
No, they just get distracted. Squirrels with glow sticks. You know this.
Well, I do. I would like to point out that Goblin Market is debuting at number 2 in the fantasy anthologies and short stories. Number 2, debuted at number 2. Buy this book.
We're number 2.
We're number 2. Also, if you
when is Malta 7 coming out?
Give us a few years. Give us a few years.
patience is a virtue.
Patience my ass, I want to kill something.
Right. So I've been talking about, I've been making about the adverts that we started adding. So on our Substack, if you'll go to the Substack for Raconteur Press, you can see one of our adverts.
That's one of the ones in Goblin Market. And we actually have books here, which Ian
We'll
can
get
show
there.
you eventually when we get to that point.
Well,
I
you
think
got
that-
the books sitting there. Show
I
the
think
damn
they look-
books.
I think they look better in print. But
They do.
I am,
We got a box full of books today.
I'm just going to go hide in the corner over there.
I have to say, I do have a great deal of fondness for Ingram Spark, not for the massive pain in the ass they are, but for the absolutely glorious job they do on printing our dead trees. In person, it's even better. This one is spectacular. There we go. In person, even better.
Too bad I can't use them.
I can choose them.
Because they won't.
because of draft to digital, and you can't use draft to digital.
Yeah.
So
Ads like Revolver, what every mother wants. From Rex Cutler Enterprises, by the way.
Small arm specialist.
Indeed.
So Rex Cutler is actually a call out to one of our authors. And Rick Cutler has had a story in every one of the Space Cowboys. Yes,
that would be
is
Rick Cutler
actually Rick. And
in an actual moo hide sport coat.
And if you submit stories to us and we keep accepting them because they're good stories, we're going to celebrate you. And sometimes that might take very peculiar forms. But yes. Oh, Rick thought it was funny. So
yes. Let's see. So we've got 2. Goblin Market debuted at number 2. And something I have pointed out. My little brother actually wrote a story for this one under a pseudonym, and Cedar picked it.
Yes.
All fair and above board, she picked his story. So I'm not going to tell you all what a pseudonym is. You're going to have to buy Goblin Market, read the stories, and figure out.
And I'm actually going to talk a little bit about the story at the moment and why I picked it. So Goblin Market was kind of an open theme. I mean, the name of it obviously comes from the Christina Rossetti poem, but we didn't really want stories that were evocative of that story, which is, I mean, the poem itself is a very interesting, tragic story. A lot of sacrifice and love in there. But with Goblin Market, it was so broad in some ways that I was looking forward to reading through the stories and choosing them. But the one thing I was looking for is something that harked back to the science fiction fantasy that I grew up with as a kid. So that kind of Edgar Rice Burroughs, H. Rider Haggard, that kind of almost late 19th century, very early 20th century pulp. And this story jumped out at me. It really was the only one out of 45 submissions that paid homage to that kind of pulp. And so, of course, I was going to pick it because it was a good story and it was very pulpy. And I thought it just fit really, really well. So I picked Chris's story and then realized later that was Chris's story. So
That says nom de plume. Oh, no. You're going to have to try and figure it out for yourself. You have to try to figure it out for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yep. If you read Goblin Market, you will know it because it stands out from the rest of the stories. Which isn't to say that we don't have some fantastic stories.
Oh, no. We got some great stories.
I mean, Maggie Hogarth's story is completely different and very beautiful and ethereal. It's a very Maggie story.
Kyle
Hanna's story is, it's the rough side of the hide a little bit, but it's fun. He definitely has a sardonic twist to him.
Oh.
I haven't met him in person, so.
We're going to have to.
Yeah, that's the thing about me is I don't get to go out and
he'll be
do
at
cons.
I think he's going to he might be at Shreveport for the GeekCon.
And I might be at Shreveport for the GeekCon. We'll see.
Yeah.
So
hoping it will be another Richard. I would copper the bet that there will be another. A matter of fact, I believe the next one is Goblin Bazaar.
Oh, well, okay. So here's what we did. And I should explain this because I actually had to field a question about this already today. We had about 45 submissions, and we just had, like we always do, we have some wonderful submissions. So I talked to the rest of the Rack Press staff while I was reading through them, and I was like, can I build 2 volumes out of what we have here? And then we'll go ahead, we'll do 2 complete volumes, we'll contract them, we'll get it all scheduled and done. And then I can release all of the other stories back to their respective authors to be revised or sent off to different markets, because there was a couple of stories in there that were fantastic stories but didn't fit this anthology. So that's what we did. We built 2 volumes, so there will be a 3rd one eventually, and there will be an open call for that because we released everything. We're trying not to just hold on to stories forever. But we did contract both volumes, so number 2 is already done in the can and ready to roll. So I think that one's publication date is in December, but don't quote me on that because I'm not looking at the schedule.
I think we're calling it Goblin Bazaar.
Goblin Bazaar, and then the third one will be like Goblin Souk or something like that.
As I hark back to my childhood, Goblin Souk.
Yes.
Just no.
Jim's over there thinking Goblin Soup.
In the year 3952, the legendary anthologies still go on. Oh.
Well, one thing that's interesting that I found today, the Army. Well, the Navy's actually going to start paying people finally, but the Army finally got to looking at their required training for enlisted,
Mm-hmm.
and they're cutting 346 hours of online training. It was currently mandatory.
Or they're cutting the training entirely, or they're moving it to in-class.
They're cutting it completely because it's irrelevant.
There were
Yeah.
300 over
Yeah.
300 hours that
That
were
doesn't
required that
surprise me
didn't
at
do
all.
a damn bit of good.
Yep.
That's over 2 months of a year of training.
But you got
It's
to do
a lot of
online.
wasted
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the things that they taught me when I was working in industry was the different kinds of waste, and one of them is time.
Yeah.
And a lot of businesses don't respect their employees' time, and the military is not exactly a business, but it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's a waste of time.
When I worked for ONR, they came down with this big thing about tracking hours.
Mm-hmm.
And we tracked hours for about 2 months. And then they came down and said, well, what you're filing is not possible. I went, what do you mean it's not possible? I'm tracking hour by hour through the day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can't be because 35% of what you're doing is administrative. I said, yes, that's how much time I do jumping through hoops
Mm-hmm.
for this command.
Your hoops.
Yeah, your hoops.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it shouldn't be that way. Well,
It
it's
is.
your requirement.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
The classic case was, well, actually, there were two. One was a security thing, and these are all online.
Mm-hmm.
Security thing has not changed. Had not changed in 13 years.
I'm not surprised.
Well, we were required to go through it every year. We were required to take every test, view every slide, answer every question. It was 4 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
We could have jumped to the final in 15 minutes and been done with it.
Mm-hmm.
But no.
Yep.
The other one was code of conduct, which was supposedly an 8-hour online course.
Mm-hmm.
The fastest I ever got that done was 24 hours because it was sponsored out of command. So it had to go into a internet link to get to it. We only had a T3 into the building. So it'd get knocked down. And you might have to redo one entire section.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So literally 24 hours to do what was an 8-hour course after having attended the real thing, but then being told that wasn't good enough.
Mm-hmm.
The something similar has been happening with Texas law enforcement, unfunded mandated training.
Yeah.
And it's always training and understand that every agency has, whether they realize it or not, a set number of hours for training per officer.
Yeah.
That, in between the patrolling, court duty, everything that officers do and day out, fitting in training is unfortunately an afterthought a lot of times. But there's only a set number of times you can send somebody, because when somebody's not training, somebody on overtime has to cover his spot.
Yeah.
If somebody's out, if he's not on patrol, he's out training, he's getting paid, and somebody else is also getting paid plus halftime to cover his spot on overtime. Well, the state of Texas has a crap ton of mandated trainings. One of which is not firearms. You're required to qualify
Yeah.
once a year. Or you were back before I retired. You're required to qualify with your firearms once a year. You're not required to train on them.
Yeah.
So if you've got, say, you can afford 36 hours of training per officer, and you've got 10 hours of cultural diversity training,
Yeah.
and 16 hours of special investigative topics, and then an 8-hour don't shoot the dog class, which
Yeah.
seriously goes.
Yeah.
You don't.
I remember that one.
Oh yeah.
Why the hell I had to take it, I don't know.
You don't have time for a 40-hour firearms class. It's just not there.
Yeah.
And then people, I can't believe they're so poorly trained. Well, we can afford 40 hours a year per officer. 36 hours of that is in bullshit like pronoun usage, risk management, which, by the way, risk management is the worst thing to happen to law enforcement since politicians. Risk management's a stupid idea and it's getting people hurt. Anyway, so moving on to something more cheerful.
Well, I think that because I get it too. I mean,
Yeah.
that I'm in a highly regulated industry,
Yeah.
and I have to go through periodic training.
Yeah.
And it's a constant thing. There's always something I'm supposed to be training on.
Yeah.
Usually, it's just reading a document.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But there are, and I'm a fast reader.
Mm-hmm.
So when it does the automatic, we're going to have to throw a PowerPoint slide up onto the screen
For 35 or 40 seconds. Yeah.
Right. Well, it's even slower than that. And then it's going to computer voice read it to me,
Yeah.
and I can't speed it up.
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah, my eyes glaze over, and I don't know how much I'm retaining. Well, I obviously retain enough because I pass the little quizzes, but
Yeah.
Do you fog a mirror?
Yeah.
If you have a pulse, you can pass the courses.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of the cybersecurity courses are an absolute joke.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's, and Greg brings up a good point. In the military, too, if you're out of command, you are having to do 2 sets of training that are identical. But one command won't recognize the other one.
Oh no.
And the other good one we ran into was I'd be gone for 3 months on a sea test, and I would miss 3 months worth of training.
And then have to catch it all up.
And then A, get written up for not being trained, and B, then have to make up the training. Yeah.
Sneak up on him
It's not quite so difficult for her to suddenly pop up behind y'all.
Yeah.
Well, he can see me.
That's all
Oh,
right.
okay.
But when they're really involved in what they're saying,
When I'm on a rant,
Yeah.
I have not been caffeinated. Well, actually,
You're now caffeinating.
Yeah.
That's just
He's trying to
wet
caffeinate.
caffeine. So,
I had coffee. I had to take the fasting blood glucose or fasting labs.
Oh, those are fun.
Blood glucose would be one of them. There's going to be a crap because they pulled enough blood that I got a feeling they were going to start rolling my feet up like a toothpaste tube.
Did you get 6 or 7?
7.
Yeah.
that's funny because they told Sanford the last time he went in for labs, he fasted because they hadn't told him not to, and they hadn't told him to.
Yeah.
And he asked, and they told him they're trying to move away from having to do a lot of fasting
Oh
labs.
no, I'm stuck with fasting
Yeah.
labs.
Well,
Military will never go away from fasting labs.
this is the VA.
Yeah.
that
Trust
told
me,
him
that will never happen. Because they want to exclude everything they can exclude for any possible causes.
Well,
I get that.
my doctor has finally become Dr. Davini has finally become used to me.
Yeah.
And it's like we are going to take a test for everything up to including albino brain chiggers because I'll do it.
Yeah.
Swear to God, I'll do it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's the fun part of being of an age.
No kidding.
Well, and something that I should probably rant on my blog about, but I'll rant here a little bit too about it, which is
Cedar rant.
if you're having a lot of health issues, have someone come with you to your appointments. If you haven't got a spouse or a child, find a trusted friend and enlist their help. Have an advocate with you. I go in with Sanford to all these appointments and I take notes. And because none of these doctors talk to each other.
No, they
I
don't.
mean, we've seen a cardiologist, a vascular surgeon, a podiatrist. Today it was wound care. They've not communicated across the board with one another. So I'm sitting there with my handy dandy little notebook going, Doc, you need to be aware that there's this as well. And this is what led to him being diagnosed with silent angina, because we've been going through hoop after hoop of, oh, he needs a CPAP.
Yeah.
No, he freaking did not need a CPAP. He was having angina attacks. He just wasn't feeling any pain.
Yeah.
So that's what led to emergency crash stop heart stents right now.
Yeah.
And he's much better now. But if you don't have someone that's willing to advocate and bring up the weird little things that you do, you don't know if they're actually something that needs to be brought to your health team.
And even more important, when the doctors don't talk to each other and everybody's prescribing medications,
Yes.
you get medications that are contraindicated
Mhm.
against each other.
yeah.
Yeah, and don't talk to your doctor about that, because actually Sanford asked me today about doctors and prescribing meds, and I'm like, doctors don't know.
Yeah.
The person you talk to about that is either a really experienced nurse or a pharmacist.
Yeah.
Pharmacist.
Pharmacist really is your ideal. I happen to have a friend who's a nurse, and I can shoot her
Yeah.
a list. And there's actually software out there which doctors don't use.
Yeah.
And you can plug a whole list of meds in, and it'll pop up any red flags.
Yeah.
I've got a really good pharmacist here in small town that has watched me plow into the tile in his pharmacy because of contraindicated meds, and I'm pretty sure there's a double check this man's meds
Yeah.
on my file. But
Yeah.
another thing is, I don't know if y'all can see that. There's a little white dot there. One of several dozen that I've got, and my newest doctor pointed at it and said, "Oh, is that from your chicken pox earlier?" I said, "No, that one's monkeypox." He went, "What?" I said, "Yeah, I've
He's
had."
never reviewed your entire
He
record.
has. He thought it was either a joke or
A misspelling.
misspelling, or somebody was.
Well, and that's the thing too, is I've had to correct a couple of times that I will go and I will look at Sanford's records online, and I've corrected a couple of things that they had in there that
Yeah.
were wrong.
Oh yeah.
You have to go look.
What do you
And
mean
that's what Matt was talking about. I got to laugh at Michael though. Grilled leftover shredded spuds and onions over bacon. Mother's Day slathered with Nando's garlic sauce.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah.
But no, he saw the monkeypox thing and thought that in my file and thought that somebody had put a charge code in there wrong.
Mhm.
It's like, no, I've had monkeypox. And he was like,
Mhm.
"What about this?" West African hemorrhagic fever? Yes. No, you didn't. Yes, trust me. It's in there. You had West African hemorrhagic fever.
Mhm.
So I'll tell you, doc.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
that's the thing, is when you get outside of what they're used to.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is why we had to fire a cardiologist with Sanford, because we're describing symptoms to him, and he's like, "Well, stop drinking milk and walk more." And I'm not even sure what the milk had to do with anything.
No.
We never got a straight answer on that one.
Yeah.
And he couldn't walk more. That was
Yeah.
part of the problem.
Yeah. No wonder Ian hates monkeys. Yeah.
one of the reasons, that's actually a major part of that. But yes, monkeypox is one of the reasons I hate monkeys.
Yeah.
Not having shrimp stuffed up my nose.
Yeah. Differ. There are some stupid VA docs out there, no question.
Well, and
She was having bipolar episodes.
Yeah, she's gone through some
Yeah.
awful stuff, but that's the thing, you have to have somebody that's willing to advocate. And I mean, I've had a lot of help navigating the VA system, and we've gotten to the point now where we actually have a really decent team that's working
Yeah.
for Sanford and with him, instead of just trying to brush him off.
Yeah.
But I see that so much with the VA, where the veterans are basically nuisances.
Yeah.
It's time and paperwork, and they don't want to deal with it. So, and because a lot of vets are stubborn, tough old men, And yes, current company is included, and
What?
you all will shut up and tolerate the pain, grin and bear it, and then by the time something's really wrong,
Yeah.
yeah, and
My
'cause there
check
was,
engine light's been on for 5 years. Doc, what's the issue?
Yeah.
Been fine for 5 years.
and that was, I mean, the first cardiologist with Sanford right after the heart attack. The impression that I got was basically go home and die.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want to have to deal with it.
Yeah.
He was marking time until retirement and hadn't bothered to study any medicine since he got out of medical school before I was born.
Yeah.
And yeah, I get a little heated about it, but the thing is that more people need to advocate for their health, and especially with the VA system, you have to push back.
Well, also,
Well, and that's where you're lucky you're up here because you've got
Yes.
Oklahoma City,
right.
Yes.
not down in Dallas.
Right. Well, and you did that for us. Thank you, because you're the one that told Sanford the Oklahoma City is better. You'll
Yeah.
be better if you're. So we opted to move here instead of staying closer
Yeah.
to Dallas and hoping for a better job for me. And I am so grateful that we did that, because it is a good system.
Yeah.
Once we got through the deadwood.
Yeah.
Well, the rise of for-profit corporate medicine,
Yeah.
corporation medicine, has not done the American healthcare any.
It's not
Yeah.
healthcare anymore. It's health business.
Yeah,
There's no care left.
Oh, yeah. And you look at your insurance, it's automatic they're going to deny it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to fight for everything.
Yeah.
No, it's-
And that's a good point, Cindy. And Cindy, by the way, is a registered nurse. She says, hate to say it, but about age 70, most doctors feel
Yeah.
like you've had a good life and you're off. Yeah.
If you hit about age 70, my current job, my retirement job, not the Racketeer Press one, involves dealing with retired folks. And it's once you hit 70, you need to find a doctor
Specializes in
specializes in
geriatrics.
geriatrics.
Yeah.
If you go to a regular doc after you hit about age 70, that's the way you've had a good life. Let's just give you another pill and sit in the corner and we'll water you and turn you to face the sun.
Yeah.
Find one that specializes in geriatrics. It makes a whole different.
Well, and the human organism, the human body changes, and there starts to be aging does things to the body that just a general practitioner isn't necessarily going to understand or be equipped to handle.
Yeah. And we're all out of warranty at that point.
Well, exactly. Over 70, you 3 score and 10, and
Yeah.
And I've known people that were basically like,
My check
I
engine
see.
light's been on since I was 27. So
yeah, well,
Oh, hell.
special.
The one that cracked me up when I went up from Agent Orange physical,
Mhm.
the PA that was doing it was shaking his head when I walked in. I went, I haven't even said anything yet. And he said, no, it's the guy in front of you. Said he hadn't been to a doctor since he retired 25 years ago.
Mhm.
I'm not seeing an issue here.
Damn.
I have known some tough old men that
Yeah.
were like that. I mean, my grandpa Bob
Yeah.
got the diagnosis with diabetes when he was 77.
Yeah.
And basically shrugged and said, I'm not going to change anything. I've had a good life. I'm just going to play it out.
Yeah.
And a few years later passed away.
Yeah.
But, and I've known a lot of guys that were like that.
Well, this guy hated doctors.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I hated doctors because,
Stanford hates doctors. The reason I do all the talking.
yeah. Well, and being an aviator, any trip to the doctor was a chance to lose your career.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, absolutely. Which is a whole special kind of anxiety and
Yeah.
trauma right there.
10, 12 years ago, had stabbing pain up high and went to the ER and saw a corporate, one of the doctors with the doctors group, and was diagnosed with pleurisy and given the standard pleurisy treatment. Went home to standard pleurisy treatment, didn't get any better, but it's pleurisy. What the fuck? It'll get better on its own. I spent 14 months literally laying like this, propped up because it hurt too bad to lay down. 14 months. Turned out to be pericarditis.
Yeah.
So I don't know anything about stubborn and stupid.
And I mean, stubborn is a survival trait right up until it isn't.
Yeah.
And there is a thing about
Yep.
men who are married live longer, and it's because their wives make them go to the
Yeah.
doctors.
So the reason we found out it was pericarditis after a year and 2 months was Rita made me go to the.
Hmm.
It's like, you know, she was actually afraid I had pneumonia and
Yeah.
said, "You will go to the doctor on your
Mhm.
way home." I said, "Okay," and things kind of snowballed from there.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah,
what-
Greg,
yeah.
beauty's not invited flying. Yep, that would have been the designator.
Yeah.
Which is frustrating to no end, trust me.
Yeah.
Knowing some folks that happened to.
And it's one of those things of, I totally get the whole, sometimes you're just gonna live with whatever's going on with your body. I trust me, I do that. But not taking care of yourself is just gonna
Yeah.
make it harder down the road.
Well, and some people, you know, and I hate to say this, but some people actually don't care.
Yeah. I
Uh,
mean,
Oh, I do. It's just that I
in
got
my,
Yeah.
in
more
my
important
case,
stuff.
I would like for my husband to be around for longer and to not be a grumpy, snarly bear when
Yeah.
while he is around.
That whole pericarditis episode was one of the things that um, I go to Electro Memorial now.
Yeah.
They've got a clinic here in small town,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a doctor, Dr. Eloise Ibanez, bless her heart, who figured me out with a quickness, and she taught the doctors that are there now, and I was a special case. So
and this is unusual. How?
So the doctor that I'm seeing now worked with Eloise, and Eloise brought him in one time and said, "This is the stupid one." It's like, Doc, do I lie? No, Doc. I guess you don't.
This is the benefit of living in a smaller town, and because you don't get this in a big city
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
you have a relationship with the people around you.
Well, that's like what Cindy's talking about. Her dad is he's 89 years old. Found lung cancer, mets on all the lymph nodes, multiple peritoneal tumors, and the doc wants to do chemo and radiation.
Yeah.
Because it's a small town. Everybody knows everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's it.
Well, okay, so my dad's got multiple mets at this point from a cancer that he had 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And they basically, because it's gone into the bone and it's in the bone in his cervical vertebrae.
Yeah.
And they opted not to do a biopsy because why?
Yeah.
Because it's a very dangerous place. If they go in there and poke around, they run the risk of causing more damage.
Yeah.
And they're going to do very careful targeted radiation. But basically at this point, it's just slow it down, hold the fort, and see what happens.
I wish
Yep.
Dr. Eloise hadn't used the term "the stupid one" when she introduced me. I mean,
If the shoe fits.
this is the stupid one. Seriously.
Yeah.
But
Well, I'm old enough. I can remember when doctors made house calls.
Yeah.
honestly, I think it would be a good thing if we went back to something like that level of care. It would require a serious reform of the system that we have. Yes, we'd need more doctors.
Well, it'd do away with PPOs.
Mhm.
It would do away with the Humanas of the world.
If you just get the federal government out of healthcare,
Yeah.
because every one of the issues we've got right now is
Yeah.
because somebody in Congress had a good idea
Yeah.
or got paid for a good idea.
AJ, it was an old man named Dr. Camel, and he traded his car in every 2 years. Actually, didn't trade it in, but he bought a new car every 2 years. And
Booga, 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 you're
Yeah.
fixed.
because this was Louisiana and he had a farm, he parked those cars in a barn.
Oh my.
He had cars in that barn going back to the 1920s. I found that out years later. It's like,
Mhm.
damn it.
Well, that's where all those barn cars come from.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. But
But he literally, I was about 7 years old and throat had been hurting.
Mhm.
And He showed up on a Saturday,
Yep.
and Sunday morning I was in the hospital being operated on for tonsillitis.
Mm-hmm.
The only good thing about that was I got to eat ice cream.
There's actually a medical corporation up here that specializes in house calls. I won't use them, but other folks do.
Yeah.
They actually have a dedicated house call corporation.
Mm-hmm. That doesn't surprise me. I mean,
I just don't want to see a different general practitioner every time I call them out.
when you're with the VA, you get that anyway.
Well,
it comes free.
I don't use the VA.
Well, it
Which
depends.
is wise.
Well, it depends on, which group you're with.
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, Sanford's had 3 PCPs in 2 years, which is
Yeah.
frustrating to me. But they have gotten to the point where they figured me out, and when I call and say there's a problem,
Yeah.
they listen to me.
Yeah. Well, the nurses really run everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a
in
nice
good
nurse.
places they do.
We have a nice nurse at the VA
Yeah.
named Todd. I like him.
Yeah. I know who that guy is. Yeah.
Yes.
In the
He's
good
salty.
the good places, the nurses. I want to see the same doctor every time.
Yeah.
I want to be able to understand him when he talks to me. My deaf ass needs to be able to understand
Yeah.
him.
That is actually a growing and real problem I've seen happen with Sanford. Sanford would go into appointments without me, because there got to be a point when after the heart attack when I basically stepped in it with both feet, and I'm like, I'm part of this now. But before that, he'd go to the doc, and the VA in particular, they rotate a lot of the newer docs in through that can't necessarily find a position elsewhere, so you get a lot of difficult to understand doctors. And when you have a half-deaf veteran, and again with the current system, the VA system here might not be like that. The VA system we were in Ohio was very much like that.
Yeah.
And so Sanford would come home having absolutely no idea what happened in that appointment because he could not understand and wouldn't ask for
Yeah.
things to be written down or repeated.
Well, and that's part of the problem too. My youngest daughter, paramedic, takes her grandfather in
Mm-hmm.
because he's the same way. He can't hear,
Mm-hmm.
and he's stage 4 prostate cancer.
Yeah.
So he's at end of life,
Yeah.
and she'll take him in. He'll say, "Oh, I'm fine,"
Yeah. No,
and all the way there, he's been in it, everything but tears
Uh-huh.
because of having to sit in the car seat.
Yeah.
And she finally about 2 years ago got in the, just like you did, got in the middle of it and went, no.
Mm-hmm.
And the worst part, since this is California, pain management
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
is getting prescriptions for pain medication.
Mm-hmm.
And
Federal government.
inevitably,
Yep.
he will run out
Yeah.
and she will go to get it filled and they'll say, oh, it'll be another week.
Mm-hmm.
And she's going, no, it's not going to be another week. You're
Yeah.
going to have it today or I'm going to file a complaint.
Yeah. And it's just brutal.
Yeah.
What they do to some of these pain patients.
Mm-hmm.
I know the
And CVS,
Yeah.
I'm gonna just say it here.
Yeah.
CVS is one of the worst ones.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, they can be.
Yeah.
I gave up on CVS. I
Yeah.
really did.
Yeah. I don't use we've got the VA for his pharmacy. But yeah, it's there's so much that needs to be fixed and I don't know how that's ever going to get done.
Get the federal government out of it.
Yeah.
Well, yes, I mean they're getting the federal government out of it, but at this point, trying to prise apart that the tumor that has grown all these deep roots into
The medical
the
system.
medical system.
Well,
is,
it's now all about money. It's not about care.
no, it's not.
Yeah, Padre, they do have to ask those questions because that's now a federal mandate.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel safe? Are you feeling suicidal?
Are you under threat?
They have stopped asking whether or not you have guns, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I thought it was funny they asked because today was an intake
Yeah.
appointment for Sanford, and they asked him while I'm sitting in the corner of the room, "Are you being abused?" And of course he actually answers this one, and says no. And but I'm sitting there thinking, if he were,
Yeah.
I'm the most likely candidate, and I'm right here.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
okay.
so what's the patient going to say?
Same thing when I had the kidney stone. Okay, folks, I am 5'11", between 5'11" and 6 feet tall, depending on how good I feel that day. I am an extremely accomplished combatives who lifts weights on more than twice a week.
Yeah.
I go in and they're looking at me and they look at Rita, who's 5'2", not an accomplished combatives, and looks at me and says, "Are you being abused at home? Seriously?"
Well, there's also mental abuse, which is
Yeah,
becoming more and more prevalent.
and
Trust me,
will
I
say-
don't get mentally abused. I
I-
mentally abuse people.
I will say that they did ask, "Are you being physically or emotionally
Yeah.
abused?" Which is a good distinction.
Yeah.
But again, if you ask someone that with a caretaker in the room, I kind of don't see the point of it.
Oh, here.
I never liked, they would send me out of the room with the kids and then
Yeah.
ask questions like that. I did not like that.
Yeah.
Especially because we did have a pediatrician touch my son inappropriately when I was out of the room.
Yeah.
And that was not.
Well, there is no requirement that I'm aware of that you actually have to leave the room.
right.
They can tell you, but they cannot make you.
Right. Well, and I never did after that. But
Yeah.
up until that point, I was being very
How
trusting.
to use a pediatrician to make a new window in an office in 3 easy steps.
I
Yeah.
couldn't have lifted her. And I am not a weak woman.
Not going there.
Dr. Tavidi, bless his heart, asked me, he said, "I have to ask this. Do you have guns at your house?" And I said, "Doc, I've got guns in your office."
Yeah.
And he went, "Okay."
That's what I loved about my doc that I had up in Northern Virginia before he retired. He and I would talk shooting.
Well, yeah.
You know, and I mean, he's literally pulling his jacket up, going, "Yeah, I got 1911 on today."
You got everything out on the exam table, checking it
The
over.
nurse is just sitting there going, "Oh my God."
Oh,
He was fun to go shooting with too.
Yeah.
That old man could shoot.
yeah.
He was a former Army doc.
And that's the thing. I think if we let the market choose which ones are the good doctors,
Yeah.
that we would see that in itself would be a reform.
There hasn't been a free market medical in
I
the
know,
U.S. since
I know.
1840.
Well, the only thing you can do these days, like I had my dentist doing it. My doc actually just said, "Screw it, I quit. I'm retiring,"
Hmm.
and sold the practice.
Yeah.
But my dentist stopped taking insurance,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
that's
his
what I
prices
was
actually
thinking.
went down.
Right. That's
Happens
what I
a
was,
lot.
That's what I was thinking might be the way to do this is
Yeah.
but I mean, part of the crippling problem is that when you're looking at the kinds of student loans that a doctor has, and dentists evidently are even worse.
Yeah.
They're in more debt usually than docs.
Yeah.
And it's very rare for them to actually be able to get through school without
Yeah.
crippling student loan debt. So then if they're not someplace where they're making really good money and the insurance is insane for
Yeah.
malpractice. So I get the pickle that they're in.
Yeah.
And we've seen a friend's son trying to get through med school and all the aftermath of everything
Yeah.
you have to do after med school, residency, and
Yeah.
everything. The system is broken all the way back to med school.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, and some of the residency programs have actually started changing. They're no longer requiring 48 hours on duty.
which I mean,
They're maximizing it to 24
yeah,
and requiring that the resident actually be able to get some sleep.
yeah. Which is, I mean, given what some of the grueling stories that I have
Yeah.
read about with what they put these poor kids through.
Yeah.
So
I don't get ulcers, I give them. Yeah.
Well, yes.
no, it's
Yeah.
abuse can take many subtle forms.
Yeah.
And anytime you have someone in a position of power or influence, they also have the ability to be
Yeah.
abusive. And,
And well,
yeah.
you know, I go back to Can't Go Home Again.
Hmm.
You know, PTSD
Yeah.
affects many, many people different ways.
Yes.
And PTSD is not just for the military.
No.
Oh, no. Good God, no.
Yeah, that's why we did the second anthology,
Yeah.
was to highlight that.
But the number of people who use that to either pray or be preyed upon,
Mhm.
depending.
Yeah. Well, there's two facets of it, which is
Yeah.
if you're suffering with PTSD, it leaves you vulnerable to outside
Influences,
predators
yeah.
that see the vulnerability and they'll
Yeah.
prey on you. And someone that is dealing with PTSD and has dealt with a lot of trauma, one of the ways that they manifest some control in a life that has had no control over them, their own body,
Yeah.
their own minds, is to control others
Mhm.
because that's all they've known.
Yeah.
They don't know how not to do that. They might even know that they shouldn't be doing it, but they don't know how not to.
Yeah. And Padre says, and then that's before you get to the stories about I hate all men supervisors. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the whole thing now with the, women taking bears over men. Go right ahead.
Yeah.
That's
They've taken a hyperbole
Yes.
and blown it so far out.
well, the plain and simple fact is it's one unscientific TikTok
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
in a city
Mm-hmm.
with quite
A highly
honestly,
biased group of
Yeah.
and
respondents.
let's face it, the responses were she cherry picked the responses.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
The and it's a well, which would you prefer, a crab or an apple?
It depends.
Yeah, it doesn't make they're in a city, and you've got these young ladies saying they prefer a bear because they can't trust men. But I'll guarantee you they walked past 100 strange men before they got to her.
Oh yeah.
Well, and the other one that always frustrated me too is with the whole beginning of the Me Too movement,
Yeah.
and even before that, the whole what was it, the poison Skittles?
Yeah.
Where you've got a bowl full like M&Ms and one of them's poisoned.
Yeah.
And that's so all of them are bad. You can't trust any of them because one of them
Yeah.
is poisoned. And that was supposed to be the analogy
Yeah.
of men. You can't trust any man because there are a few men that are bad. And I'm like, this doesn't even make any sense.
Well,
But this is what these girls have been
Yeah.
brainwashed into.
when you look at the girls, women, you say, well, if that's the case, then there are any number of emotionally abusive women.
Yeah.
So one bad Skittle, so all women are bad, and they lose it.
Yeah, well, but absolutely, and
Yeah.
that's the thing. And we talked about this on.
Well, it's the Nazis in the attic anthology.
No Jews in the attic, Nazis in the attic.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and
But it is. Men don't always perceive that they can be abused, and there's this public perception that women can't be abusers. Now that's being challenged these days, thank goodness.
As it should be.
But there's the whole thing with toxic masculinity, and I'm sorry, but there's also toxic femininity.
Yeah.
Not all masculinity is toxic. A lot of masculinity is wonderful. I'm
Yeah.
all for it.
Especially when it gets the damn door open for you, right?
Right. I'm still trying to deal with the whole wanting to open car door and close car door. That one throws me, but it's just because I'm not used to it. But it's not that I mind it. It's more of that awkward.
No, I'm just laughing at Rick. Says man doesn't get a rape charge and the bear gets a good meal. Win-win. Yeah.
Well, but that's the other side of it.
Yeah.
I was explaining red pill, blue pill to Sanford the other
Yeah.
day. Not the first time we've had the conversation, but he wasn't sure where it came from, and
Yeah.
so I was explaining.
Matrix, wasn't it?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Matrix, but now there's the black pill, and that is
That
the black
annoys
pill.
that annoys
And I don't
piss on me.
like the black pill. I don't like the nihilism because we get the pendulum swings so far that we get to these extremes.
Yeah.
And there are good men, there are good women, there are good kids that are the hope for
Yeah.
the nation. And I have got way up on my soapbox. Sorry, guys.
Well, just
No, it's
I'm just
well,
gonna-
I got thrown out of a writers group online because they got into this whole thing back and forth on the men versus bears.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally was so pissed at it. I'd watched it for like 3 days and it was
Yeah.
still going on.
Yeah.
And I said, well, the good bears are the ones that have eaten berries. The bad bears are the ones that are eating salmon
fish.
Mm-hmm.
because they don't taste good.
Right.
And I got my ass thrown out of the group. And I went, good. I'm
That's
tired
sweet.
of that shit anyway. One less group to worry about monitoring.
I will point out that the whole men are bad has risen due in large part to hookup culture.
Hmm.
And the back when you dated
Yeah.
for a while and got to know each other, the way we did it in the old times.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I'm gonna stop right there. I'm gonna get in trouble.
Well, okay, so hookup culture from a scientific perspective is
Scratching an itch. That's all
well,
it is.
it not only is it, we're not even talking about the psychological and the emotional consequences of it. There's an actual physical consequence to having unprotected sex, or I mean, really just sex with men willy nilly for women, because there's actual DNA transference.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so every man that a woman's been with, she has some of his DNA with her, which, if you're in a long term committed relationship, actually adds to the bonding of
Yep.
there. But if it's not, what you wind up with is you've got all of this junk DNA riding along with you, which can then lead to problems down the road. And we're not even talking about the emotional catastrophic consequences of separating intimacy from um, the very real hormone influences that it gives you. And the fact that we hypersexualize everything means that physical contact and touch becomes forbidden, which means we've got lonely people, which has very real physiological effects.
Yeah.
And it's just this whole cascading thing that leads to a lot of very sick people.
Yeah.
And it's something that because it's not culturally acceptable to call that out, it gets very little study. It gets very little exploration in most media. I have started to see, and I'm very happy to see, that there is there is pushback coming, which is good to see. But the other thing is that the pendulum swings.
Yeah.
So,
Constantly.
yeah.
Well, and that's what people on the left are finally starting to learn,
Hmm.
is that John Q. Public is not going to take so much.
Yeah.
But let's move on to something a little bit better, since we've
Yeah.
now wasted damn near an hour talking about it. Downers. The reason we had to cut off early on Tuesday was we had a interview that we were doing with Fred Hughes for Biz TV.
Mhm.
And thankfully we had a few minutes because, as usual, technology did not cooperate.
Not worth a damn.
So we had to jump through a few hoops. But I think it'll be on next Thursday on Biz TV online and
An interesting thing is
podcast.
here in Texas, Biz TV distributes to local TV markets.
Yeah.
So you might see us on the local TV station.
Yeah.
Kind of scary.
Yeah.
That is downright scary.
Kind of scary.
But I think the interview went well. Fred was very happy with it.
Good. Good.
And he's gonna come back and interview everybody again, probably separately.
Yeah.
He'll do an interview with Jim, with me, and then I pushed an interview with Cedar and Jonna,
Yeah, which he wants to do.
which he really
Mhm.
wants to do. So Raconteur Press may be all over your local TV station.
Well, and this was part of marketing and branding and making people aware that we exist.
Well, even more
It's
so,
important.
it's about doing the right thing to people
Mhm.
and for people,
Yeah.
which is what Fred is after.
Yes,
Mhm.
it's the rising tide thing.
Yeah, it's the rising tide.
Because it's really nice to be able to lift up other people, promote
Yeah.
other people. Speaking of which, James Copley's book is out now.
Yes, it
Yes,
is.
it is.
So,
And
so
I tried to leave a review and they didn't take it because I'm friends of his.
I will see if they'll let me do
Yeah.
a review. I haven't had the time to read it yet, so I will read it before I will review it, because
It's a good read.
that would be good. But yeah,
Other thing, while I'm thinking about it, Larry put up a post. They haven't done a couple of writers' dojos lately
mm-hmm.
because both he and Steve are humping for deadlines
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
1 June.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're a little behind the curve on that one.
They're a whole bunch behind the curve.
Yeah.
So Writers Dojo is not going away. It'll be coming back. They just need a little time.
They need some breathing space.
Yeah, they
we
need
all
to-
get to that point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they need to be able to breathe.
yeah.
Right.
And I mean, I don't know about with Steve, but with Larry, writing is his living, so that
Yeah.
takes priority. The writer dojo is something he's just
Yeah.
doing to give back to the community,
Right.
which is great. It's kind of like this.
Yeah.
You do this to give back to the community.
For sanity, for versions of sanity, I should say.
We're all insane here.
Yeah.
And we've
Well,
lost Jonna, so it
that-
kind of feels weird and empty without her.
that and the death threats if we ever quit. So yeah.
Right.
Too many people know where we live and they
Yeah,
can find us.
that's even scarier, yes. But I think the interview went fairly well. We'll let you know when it goes live so you can
When
go
and where.
laughing point. Yeah. Yeah, that's right, Jesse. Writer's Dojo has always been a break even at best. Any extra goes into being to hardware.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, we're only online because of people's generous donations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Whenever we hold this up, the donations that go to that coffee fund pay for the internet.
well, not only that, but we've got the donated microphone, we've got
Microphone.
donated camera.
Yep.
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 You know, that's because of you folks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because we were doing this out of our houses on dog crap internet connection
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
with beat up old laptops.
We're
We're still
are.
on a beat up old laptop, but what the hell, it works.
But the broadband
Yeah.
fiber internet is y'all pay for that.
Which, by the way, us old farts are losing that connectivity bonus this month.
Right.
For the veterans and remote connectivity for broadband internet, we were getting a $30 a month off our bill paid by the federal
Oh.
government.
Oh.
And that
okay.
ends this month.
Of course it does.
Well, I have the local fiber optic and I've had not really any issues with the service itself. I'm not real thrilled with the fact that the bill just keeps going up and
Yeah.
up and up. And I called them and I was like,
You got
it
Texas,
says
right?
on your website that it's supposed to be this. And she's like, oh, no, that's an introductory rate. And I'm like, it does not say that
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, Texas, right?
Yeah.
Ours doesn't go up.
Mine keeps cranking up every few months. So.
Really?
Yeah, so evidently I signed on in an introductory rate and then it's been scaling up since then. And I'm like, so when's it going to stop?
Oh, speaking of rates,
So,
electrical rates.
mm-hmm.
I just had to redo my
Yeah.
rate contract. It's now up to the cheapest that I could get was 21 cents per kilowatt hour.
Oh, goodness. Because I just redid my contract in April and I'm at like 14. So
It's 14 for how many kilowatts?
Oh, gosh, I don't remember off the top of my head.
Because it's a scalable.
Yeah. I'm in a 2-year contract and so far, I calculated it the other day. So far, it's with all the delivery stuff, it's averaging about 15 cents a kilowatt.
Yeah, you're using a lot of power then.
Oh, well, my house is not at all.
Because if
Energy efficient.
if you're low on the usage
Mhm.
scale,
Mm-hmm.
it's over 20 cents a kilowatt hour now.
Yeah.
It's only when you get over 2,000 kilowatt hours
I'm not using more than 2,000.
that it really starts dropping off.
Yeah.
But it has gone up 9 cents in the last 7 years.
Yeah.
For basic rate.
Yeah. Well, I had a provider that lied to me when I moved out of the apartment. I didn't realize I could have severed the contract when I moved from the apartment to the house.
Yeah.
They implied I had to maintain it.
Yeah.
Because I had service up here as well as down there.
Yeah.
So I was in a 2-year contract with them and their rate was high. And then so I got out with them and into another company, went and shopped a bunch of comparison stuff. And I don't know. We'll see how it is, but I'm in a 2-year contract with these people. So.
Yeah.
So far, it's okay.
Yeah. Well, I only signed 1-year contracts, so that may.
I had intended to, and somehow
Yeah.
it wound up being a 2-year, but I did it all online. I wasn't talking to a person,
Yeah.
so it's my fault.
Read the damn fine print again.
Always.
Yeah.
Anyway, folks, we've wasted another hour of your time.
We spent a lot of time griping. Sorry about that.
I had a soapbox I wanted to get on because I want all of y'all to take care of yourselves.
Yeah. Usually Jonna beats us about the head and the shoulders, but
Be cheerful.
Yeah.
Well, Jonna's being good and taking care of herself, so I will
Yeah.
celebrate that and remind all of y'all listening that we care about you and we want to see you there twice a week when we're live.
Yeah.
We don't want you to be off somewhere laying dead because you didn't take care of yourself.
Cedar cares about you because
Yeah.
she's sweet that way.
us, maybe not so much. Remember,
I
folks,
didn't
don't,
say that.
but you were thinking it. Remember, don't sweat the petty stuff. Don't pet the sweaty stuff. We'll see you next week.
Y'all be safe.
Bye bye. Oh.